Welcome. This is Bart Sharp with Becoming Quantum Conscious. Whether it be in the evening or the afternoon or the morning, no telling where you're at. You are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. That would be 107.7 and 105.3 out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. However, we're all over the world tonight. Not only are we broadcasting out of beautiful New Orleans, USA, I am in the EU, and my guest tonight, Yolandi Boshoff, is out of the UK. So we're USA, EU, UK. I'm, of course, in beautiful France, or lovely France, as I like to call it. And it is nice and cool here tonight. I love it, being that I live in Austin, Texas. And my guest tonight is the Sacred Site Oracle, and Yolandi Boshoff. Am I getting your name right, Boshoff?
Well, if you were Afrikaans like I am, or South African, it would have been Boshoff, but Boshoff is fine as well. It's always a difficult one to pronounce.
Okay, well, good enough. I was meaning to ask you that, and I forgot.
It's all good, Bart. Most people don't get it right.
Well, yes, and Yolandi is from South Africa as well as the UK. You're living in the UK right now, correct?
Yes. I've been here coming on 4 years now. So I live in Devon in the south of the UK, the most beautiful part.
Oh, yes. Well, it's all beautiful in my opinion, except for the traffic. I could use without that. It's just like this nice, pristine, very, very, very powerful land with all of these automobiles all driving on the other side of the road, and I'm always terribly confused, when I'm there, because I'm driving on the other side of the road, and it makes you feel like, you're walking around the street and you forgot your pants or something. It just doesn't feel right. But I love the UK and all of these great sacred sites, and we're going to talk about that as well as France and whatever comes up, because Yolandi's traveled all over the world finding these sacred sites. But first, I wanted to start with just a bio of Yolandi. Yolandi is a tell me the last name again.
Yolandi Boshoff.
Boshoff. Boy, I'm going to get that one right. Yolandi Boshoff is a spiritual coach and teacher and author, dragon priestess, starseed, and grid worker with a passion for travel, sacred sites, and spiritual adventure. Her work is all about helping those around her to remember their connection to Mother Earth, the cosmos, themselves, and all that is. She works with clients from more than 40 countries across the globe and focuses on DNA decoding and activation, light language healing, channeling, and accessing the sacred records of the cosmos and Earth. Working as a sacred site oracle, she shares the deeper messages of the land, the sacred sites, and the water. You can find out more about Yolandi and working directly with her at www.divinesoul.me. And just to mention that Yolandi does individual sessions with DNA decoding, activation work, and has a new workshop series launching soon called New Earth Chakra Activations. So welcome to the show, Yolandi. I'm so glad that you're here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Bart. I'm super excited to speak to you tonight about my favorite topic in the world. So that's really awesome.
Yes, as we both are. Yolandi and I met as she attended one of my tours in France with the most spectacular group of those from South Africa, the UK, Canada, Australia, and Eastern Europe. There's somebody from Eastern Europe, and it was such a committed group to really getting in touch with these sacred sites. And that's so much about it, is like, how do you get in touch with these sacred sites? And It's more than just attitude, but attitude is a lot about it. If your willingness to commit to being totally in the moment to what the site offers you.
Mhm.
But I wanted to ask you a question, because you've been to bunches of them, and could you just give us a definition and purpose of what you think sacred sites are all about?
Yeah. So for me, when I started looking at it, it's really about, you know, thousands of years ago, the ancients were really in touch with the feelings and how things felt for them and how their bodies felt while they were walking the land. And if you think about the electromagnetic fields that we have on the earth, if you really get quiet and still, you can actually still feel these. So if you tune in, you will be very aware of these. And what happened was they would obviously walk the land and then get to spots where there was a big culmination. So if you can imagine all these lines coming together and basically forming a point of extreme energy, and they would then obviously feel this. And then it would be like, oh, this feels different in my body. So basically, what happens is when we have like this big culmination of energy, it's like a massive vortex, right? So the minute I step into it, it's like opening a doorway into the other world. And these people were obviously wise enough to know that this is a good place to come and sit and to commune with different energies and with the different realms. And that is basically how they then decided to place a marker on there. And they would put stones down and they would build temples and all of those good things. And underneath the energy, obviously, of the electricity or the electromagnetic fields as well, we then also had water underneath. So we had the waterways coming together as well. And then that's basically how these sites became places for people to meet. It would be places for shamans to get together and do their work with the other realms, bring information through, etc. So for me, that's really what a sacred site is. It's a big culmination of different earth energies that will help us to access different realms of consciousness and open up our own consciousness as well.
That's a great response, and I wanted to ask you a question. It's kind of like a chicken. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Because we have been to various spots, and they each seem to have their own special talent or intention that they send out to those who are present with it.
Yes.
I just went to a site or a church the other day, in Alet Laban, and they had the Star of David on there, which for most of us know is a symbol for sacred union. And yes, it is the Star of David as well, but they had four of them in the church. But when I entered and went to the altar, it was a naughty boy because I went and put my hands on the altar, much like a priest would be only permitted to in the days of old. I felt the sacred union of the earth and the cosmos come into my body. And so, my question to you is, do you think the intentions of the people created something like that, where there's a specific utility that the sacred site has, or do you think it just came up automatically? Like, what's your
Ooh,
spin on that?
okay, so I mean, for me, it's like I also believe that we can make places sacred by utilizing different. So, for instance, if I built, say, I built a stone circle in my back garden today, I can
Mhm.
basically make the earth energies come to that, right? So we can basically start attracting energy by activating the stones and then pulling the earth energies in. And then in the same instance, if you think about big obelisks or a monolith or those type of things, pulling down the star energy as well. So utilizing those things as energetic portals and pulling the energy down. So I think it goes both ways. It was like what was there already, the nodes of the earth, and then there's what the people also created because they had specific intentions that they wanted to use.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's a great answer
Mm,
with that, because I think it is always changing and evolving
yeah.
with the people
Yes,
um,
exactly.
with that. So,
And I
so
just want to say something on that as
yes.
well, just with the sites, because this is something that I've noticed when I've gone to the sites, is that there are layers, right? So there's layers of like history, layers of information, layers of usages of the site. So if you go to a site, for instance, like Stonehenge, when it first started, it was really about that rebirthing energy. It was about like making the souls go over, so for them to step over the threshold. And then as time went past, it basically moved into the space of becoming a place where they honored the sun, right? And they used like the solstices and the energy of the sun. So as time passed and the people evolved and changed their ideas, they basically changed the structure of the site. So like the stones that was placed on the site was way later than the original date of the actual site. So there's thousands of years difference between when the stones were placed versus when the site was first used. So just wanted to quickly chuck that in there.
Oh, I think that's a great concept. They do
Yeah.
change and evolve with what happens. It's kind of like the same with a home. If there
Mm,
was a traumatic experience there, the home would hold that trauma until it was cleared, just as
yeah.
if there was a couple there that had something very beautiful, intense between them, they would bring that energy in, and the home and the couple would be one in something very beautiful, and
Mm.
that would still be there once the couple left.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because we code into the earth, right? Like all of our intention, what we put in, that's why we call it earth work. That's why it's called grid work, because all of our intentions, everything that we want, we put it into the earth. All the love that we want to put into the earth, all of the good vibes, all of the stuff, we code it into the soil, into that field.
Yeah. So that's a term that I don't know if all of our viewers are familiar with that, about what is a grid worker? What is exactly does that entail?
Okay. Um, so we have these beautiful grids around the earth, and they basically they connect all these beautiful sites, and they keep the land in integrity, and it's linked to the abundance of the earth. And it's basically all of these. If you could just imagine like a big net around the world, right? And then
Mhm.
so if we have a place that has got a lot of war or bad things happening or whatever, that energy obviously goes into the ground and then it attracts itself to the grid. And then we have like these weird dark spots on the grids and all of these things. So what happens if you're an energy worker is that you can actually maintain the grid where you live. So you can tune into the energy of the earth. If you, for instance, do Reiki or any kind of energy healing work, you can send that energy into the earth and clear any trauma that's basically been captured within the earth. So for me as a grid worker, my job is literally to go around to wherever. It doesn't even have to be a sacred site, even the land where I live, and keep sending healing into the land around me, because that's where the abundance energy, all of that, like growth, all of the beautiful things, and the higher vibrational energy, we're basically pumping that into this grid work system of the earth. And then that basically creates harmony around us and our environments where we live. So that's what grid workers do.
Yes, indeed, and it's so much needed,
Yeah.
and even thinking about, um, places such as our state capitals, or I don't know what you call
Yes.
them in the UK. That's what you call them in the United States. The capital city of a state like Texas. I live in
Yeah.
Austin, Texas. That we can start to change the grids around that. So there's so much of a different flow because there's so many different dense considerations made through laws and such in our
Yes.
beautiful state of Texas. Uh, that we would like to have a lighter point of view with.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
I'm sure there's places like that as well where you live.
Yes. And I think if if all our intentions were just to, even if you just send love back into the grid system of the earth, it's going to change the vibration. And what happens if we walk into someone's house and it's a fabulous place and it feels good, your whole attitude changes, your vibration changes, so you take on that energy. So imagine if our whole world was filled with that type of energy, then we'll all basically tune into that energy as a collective, and it will start shifting things. So for me, it's really crucial. The whole concept of grid work is really crucial.
It is. It's such a good community work, in my opinion, and
Yes.
it can be done in so many different ways. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. There's just more creative ways to do it. I would sit in a forest in Austin. There's this one place called Barton Creek Greenbelt, and just connect to the center of the earth and visualize a flow of this volcanic energy coming into my womb, which really always felt wonderful. Bring it
Mm.
into my heart, which always felt was a great distributor and communicator of energy. And then I would send it out to every place in Austin, Texas. And that was a
Yeah.
discipline for me is how can you visualize an energy coming out of you that will go into every home in the city, every
Mm.
business, all the streets. It's quite a task and visualization.
Yeah.
Any
And but
any 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 perspectives on some of the stuff that you do along
so
the same lines?
what we do here in the UK, well, actually, it's a bit of a worldwide project, and we started it a while back. Me and a bunch of my really close friends started something called Project Earthwork. So we are like creating a space where grid workers are getting together, and we've asked people to start hooking up and working with their buddies and those type of things to do exactly that, to start doing grid work wherever they are. So you can go and get together with someone. You can even go and start a project within your hometown, wherever you are, where you and the people just go and send love into the earth and do your thing and do your grid work. And like you say, there's no rules, but people don't know where to start. So we thought, okay, well, every month we'll have like a free meditation. Everyone gets together, we up the vibration, people go out, do their thing, and then we get together every single month. So for us, as like part of Project Earthwork, our team, it's really our mission is to take this and just start getting people involved because we can all do it and we can do it exactly like we want to do it as long as your intention is basically just to help the earth and to take the energy however you want to get it from the center of the earth, from the center of the cosmos, from source, whatever works for you, and basically send that back and start healing the planet on a much deeper level.
It's so true. To me, it's kind of like fertilizer. You're
Yeah.
just moving energy, and that's a lot what the ley lines do. Is they're
Yeah.
all about moving energy that creates. And when you have the energy flowing, you have cohesion
Mm,
energetically.
mm,
And when there's
exactly.
a cohesion energetically flowing through a town or city, the intention is everybody's going to work from a higher vibration. And
Yes.
hopefully they make more conscious decisions, like in Austin, Texas, that they stop shooting each other and robbing each other, which is kind of a problem in our town these days.
Yeah.
It's really kind of interesting that that's happening. Uh, but I don't want to be political, but problems do show up.
Mm, mm,
And that's so much of the beauty of it. And also, oh, this is from Saren Roundtree.
mm.
I'm sure I'm just chopping that name up horribly. Please excuse me. Such a fascinating point. What would happen to the legislative process if the grids under those state/country capitals were cleansed?
Mm, exactly.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Thank you, Sarah. What do you think about that comment, Yolandi?
I think it's fabulous, and it's just more of an incentive for people to get together in especially big cities where big decisions are being made and to work together to basically change the vibration of their cities. Because if we're changing the vibration again of the cities, we're changing everything. We're changing how people live, all of that stuff. So it would be amazing. And I mean, that's our vision for Project Earthwork is literally to get everyone involved and aware and conscious of like starting to work together because it is a community project just like it would have been in the ancient times, right? Like people would have been working together to maintain the energies of their land so that they could survive, so that their crops would grow, all that good stuff. And that's how it was first done. We've just forgotten how to do that now.
Yeah, probably the most important aspect for if you're in the UK or France or even America, was to produce more children and produce better crops.
Mm, mm,
And so you have so many things that were around the area of fertility.
mm. Exactly. And that's what those sites also celebrated, right? If you think of places like Avebury, it was like fertility circles. So people would come together and they would firstly thank the earth for all the abundance, for the food and everything. And they would then also ask for the blessings. And they would go there and they would basically come together. And that's where also, you know, getting pregnant and babies and the whole thing was all so concentrated in that area. So it was such a different world, wasn't it? Because we basically put all our energy into these places and really connected with the earth. And that's where we
Mhm.
want the world to go again. That's what we're basically hoping for.
Yeah. And just something wild and crazy to say that we may be doing the same thing with our computers right now, and that's creating a totally different consciousness. However, it has some of those qualities
Mm,
in a
mm,
very strange way.
yes. Because if it
Now,
wasn't for this, how would we be connected, right? Like, I mean, I wouldn't get to talk to you. I'd have to travel to
exactly,
France to see
we're having this heart conversation with Yolandi in the UK,
you.
1,000 miles away, and I'm
Yeah.
in southern France, and we're all being broadcasted out of New Orleans, Louisiana, at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, and it's all happening due to this wonderful thing called internet consciousness, uh, with which is that it's just funny. Uh, now, one of the questions that you brought up to me before was, how is DNA a major factor, spiritual and ancestral, to your work
Mm.
and grid work, and how are you guided to that?
Okay, so when for me, when I look at DNA, so there's two parts. So there's like my ancestral DNA and there's also my spiritual DNA. So we'll talk about this spiritual one first. So when I was on my tour with you in 2019, that's when I had my first set of like strands activated, my DNA activated. And during our trip together, you said a few things to me that kind of like made the penny drop. And I started realizing my connection with the earth and all of those good things and how to actually start listening to the earth. And so for me, part of my DNA activation process helped me to learn to channel, to tune into the earth, and to listen to what the earth wants to tell me. Okay, so for me, DNA activation and understanding my own connection with the earth and part of my purpose here, my work, what I do, all of that is basically very much linked to telling the stories of the earth, the deepest stories that people aren't talking about. So, not what the archaeologists are saying, but what lies underneath and the stuff that's not written down. And for me,
Mhm.
that was the spiritual DNA activation led to that. Now, where my
So
other
when
DNA,
to clarify,
yeah.
those ancient stories, were you channeling them, or were they coming out of you or another source or out of the library?
So that's exactly it, right? So think of the earth. She's like a big library. Like I said
Mm,
before, everything we do is basically remembered by the earth. If there's a war, she's going to remember. If I'm like having a fat party at a sacred site, she's going to remember, right? Like she literally remembers all of the stories that's ever been lived upon her. She's like a big library. So if I tune into her, I can listen to what she's telling me and I can relay those stories. I can become the storyteller of the energy of the earth, basically. Does that make sense?
which makes you a sacred site oracle, I guess.
Hence the name, because it is the storyteller of the sacred sites, right? And that's it. Like,
Right.
but it's about listening to her. So that's the aspect of the DNA and being able to listen, and that's the spiritual DNA. And then the actual DNA lineage. So when I moved to the UK, I'm South African. But I had this like immense need to live here, and I couldn't understand what it is it all about. So I said to my husband, for my birthday, I want a DNA test done. And then he's British, I'm South African. So when I had my DNA test done, I was more British than my husband. So my ancestors are literally from this land, and I didn't know it because I was obviously born in the south of Africa, way far away from here. I thought my ancestors were all, like from Belgium and around there, Netherlands, blah blah blah. And then I get this DNA test, and I'm like, okay, cool. The land is literally calling me back. This is why I've come here, to come and listen to the land. So your own DNA is very much connected to you listening to the land as well, if that makes sense.
It's a great story. And the proof in the pudding is when you start to make you start making decisions from it, and your life gets better.
Yes.
Something opens with you, and all of a sudden your whole flow of life comes. It happens. It's the same application of the ley lines. When the ley lines are flowing well, that area seems to be doing well.
Yes.
It's a good. I think that's one of the things that's so magical about Southwest France, where I'm staying. I stay in an area at the foothills of the Pyrenees, about 70 or 80 kilometers or 50 miles from the Mediterranean Ocean. So it's down in the corner, but nobody makes new houses here. They rebuild the old ones. They do not tear up the land. They do not chop down a lot of trees. And there's so much that is old growth forest here, or it's been around and nobody's touched it for 50 to 100 years.
Yes.
And the whole flow of the land just reacts to it.
Yes.
And there's a lot of fairies.
I remember that from tripping down there with you. It was beautiful. But I think that's also the thing here about the UK, which makes it so beautiful to work here, is because there's that real ancient history here that you can actually track so well because of the stone circles and the Neolithic people. And you can actually, there's so much evidence of the ancientness of this land, which really is so inviting. And then it's almost like, okay, well, look, we put a circle up here, so why don't you come and sit here and have a looky at it, because it's all preserved and looked after. So it's like the land's inviting us to come back.
It is. It's very fascinating. And I just wanted to ask your opinion. Uh, do, do you think the Atlanteans were in the UK?
I think they traveled to here, obviously, after the fall of Atlantis. I definitely think they spread out, in my opinion, across various places in the world. So that they would have gone to Europe, and they would have gone south, and all of that. So there's definitely, for me, that energy is in certain of the sites here. I won't say in all of them, but it's definitely in certain sites here.
Yeah, because I think you have a little bit of a different spin than what I figured. And like you, I'm just asking questions. I'm connecting to energetic sites. I'm asking questions, and answers kind of float up.
Yeah.
And for me, when I'm saying float up, they seem to come into my gut, and they come into then my thoughts, and I know it's not my brain, it's something else, almost like from the speed and direction where they come from.
Yeah.
However, it just felt like the Atlanteans were very much here. And I just keep wondering, were they the ones who made some of the major ley line patterns? And you've bring up some great points that, well, no, it's just common people that were just, experiencing their own magic. And maybe it was both. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So my feelings about ley lines are basically that they are already set within the earth. So I do believe that we can move them around. And I don't really, the feeling about the Atlanteans creating ley lines or like moving the structure of them, moving them around, yes. But for me, the earth has got her own inherent pathways, her own serpent ways, dragon lines, all of that good stuff that she's basically, that's hers. And so we get to work with it, and we obviously change it and manipulate it and mess around with it as well. But I think that belonged to her, to be honest, to
Mm,
Mother Earth. That's my own personal view. Obviously, we
wow.
all think differently about this.
Well, when you bring that up, my body just kind of rivets. Maybe those who saw me on either Roku or YouTube or Facebook or on the computer just saw my face squinch up when she said it comes from Mother Earth. But it was just kind of a riveting thing. And to me, that tells me that I don't want to call it truth, but I just say that it reads.
Yes.
And by the way, if you haven't noticed or are just curious who you're actually listening to, um, this is Yolandi Boshoff, and I'm Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7, 105.3. And we are on Roku, so you can watch us on cable television, also on YouTube, Facebook, and other modalities. And we're just having a wonderful talk about the energetic dynamics of sacred sites. And so, Yolandi, um, what are some of the more profound places that are favorite places that you like to go to?
Oh man, there's so many, and I wish I had like 20 more lifetimes so I could just go to every single place on the earth. Some of my favorites so far was obviously okay. So France was huge for me because that was really that journey with Mary Magdalene, and like that was a big remembering for me of like the earth energies. So definitely those caves. I'm a big cave girl. Like it's like huge for me. Whenever I get to go into caves, it's like being in the womb of Mother Earth, and I just feel this like super deep connection. It's like you can touch her, you can just feel that energy. So it's so beautiful. So and I can't even, like, that cave that you took us to with those massive statues inside, that one in France. So that was
That one's
huge for
called,
me.
in case anybody's wondering, Grotte de Perillos,
Yes,
Perillios.
yes,
And this was a cave that, according to Lars Moll and other people, they believed that Mary Magdalene did vision quests there.
yes,
And my memory is that you had a very profound occurrence when we went to that cave.
yes.
Everybody else wanted to leave, but Yolandi and another woman were like, "No, why would we want to leave this place?"
It was like one of the most insane experiences. So it's funny because it also ties into my other favorite place, which is Machu Picchu. When I was there, I had my first encounter with the inner earth beings, these beautiful inner earth beings that gave me all these weird codes which I couldn't understand. And I was just like, I don't know what this means. Like it was these random words that I was literally like channeling into a book. And I was just like, okay, fine. Because usually what happens is you get information sometimes when you go to a site and it doesn't make sense. And I've learned that you kind of park it in a little book somewhere, and when you need it, it will come back. And then when I went to that cave with Bart, I sat down next to this big stalagmite, and just placed my hand on it, and all of a sudden the same beings were back, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I got a whole bunch of new codes as well, and it was just so amazing. So I basically got to speak to them again and channel some of the information and stuff. So that for me was one of my most beautiful experiences, and I'm still figuring out exactly what I'm going to do with the codes. But like I said, I've learned that I need to be patient. So some of that stuff is starting to make sense, especially because of the inner earth libraries and all those type of stuff. And hopefully I can use it. But at the moment, it's just like it's being written down and kept very safely until I understand all of it fully.
That sounds wonderful. It's really fascinating to hear how you interpret things because everybody does it differently,
Yeah.
and you may not be able to do it exactly like Yolandi, but you're going to find your own way However, when you're around somebody like Yolandi and taking her classes and workshops, what happens, and I'm taking the liberty of stretching into this without Yolandi's permission,
Thanks,
but
Bart.
you will kind of go into a like I what I call an energetic conduit. In other words, you will go into her reality energetically, and then you learn from that energy. It opens it up for you for your own interpretations to come out.
Mm.
So
Yes.
that's why I say a conduit. You just kind of open the way energetically, and then through your eloquent words, uh, teach people concepts so the intellect can learn what the body has opened up to.
Mm. Yeah. Basically, in a nutshell, I agree with you. That's exactly it. My friends call it Yolandi Land. So they like, we go to Yolandi Land up there and then we do stuff. And then, so that's
Mhm.
basically, yeah, that's where we go in the realms.
And so, anybody that's listening in, if you have questions for Yolandi, please put them through the chat, and we will bring them up. And we love that. Um, you know, it makes it all unpredictable. Which unpredictability when you go to sacred sites is part of the beauty of it.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so what do you think of the sacred site, Avebury Stone Circle? One of my favorites.
Man, so when I started looking at it and I realized what it was, I was like, what? It was so amazing. So I mean, it's basically a culmination of two dragon lines. So you've got the Mary and the Michael dragon line running through there. And it's just an incredible sight. And it's so much bigger than what's been left over. So it's quite a daunting sight, right? Like it's so huge, and the energies there are like this motherly. Just every time I go there, I feel like I just go back into the womb of my mom. Like it's just like so
Mm,
cozy, and it just feels absolutely beautiful. And then the culmination of the masculine and feminine energy that runs through the site and comes together, the points where it come together, is like really, really powerful as well. So it's one of my favorite sites, but right next to it is what's called the West Kennet Long Barrow. And I love that even more
oh, really? Wow.
than Avebury. So
Now,
that for me is
now
like
that one isn't that the grave site where a like a 10-foot alien was buried or something like that?
well, they found
No.
human remains in the site. So
Mhm.
they found like lots of skulls there and stuff in the 50s and so on. But when I walked into that dolmen, that like long barrow, that beautiful burial site, and I'm putting it in inverted commas, um, I realized that that was the last usage of that site, not the first usage. So when I started tuning into the land and I sat on the land and I listened and I went into, there's five little pockets basically inside this mound, and I
Mhm.
started sitting in them and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I felt all this priestess energy. And it was like a beautiful initiation site that just opened up. I was just like, oh my goodness, these women went through their rites of initiation to become the priestesses that was serving at
Wow.
Avebury. So I was just like, it blew my mind because it was just like, this was incredible. Like, this was a space where they would go and basically find themselves so that they could serve and help in the bigger circle of Avebury. So that for
Wow.
me is one of my favorites.
That is a wonderful one.
Yeah.
Um, and William, I don't know if we have an answer to your question, William, but I'm going to put it up anyway. Maybe I'll give you a response, but I'll read the question first. Do you think things are going to get a lot crazy if they shut down the internet and computer systems for a couple of days or for a couple of weeks? Yeah, imagine all the banks. I kind of like to respond to that in that I don't have an answer. I don't go into the future of something so big as the internet. It's kind of like predicting the Super Bowl, or I guess everybody knows what the Super Bowl is. It's or a presidential election. It's too big for you to get a grasp about all the considerations. However, if we were going to do a sacred site meditation on it, we would start pulling in various energies. Like, to me, it's about, I would be pulling in the energy of Venus, because the Venus is about a interpretation of the infinite. The sun is infinite. The Venus is the interpretation of infinite. So I would be meditating with those energies and bringing them into the consciousness of the internet and making it strong. That's how I would deal with it. What do you think, Yolandi?
I reckon I would love to disconnect from the internet for a few days and just be able to go and spend time on the land and hug a few rocks and trees, Bart. So that would be my solution. I'd be so freaking happy.
That sounds nice.
You and I can go sit in the forest somewhere and like not worry about anything. That would be my
Yes,
personal
yes.
solution.
Well, it's a true, and it's so funny. Um, the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Network have a lot of shows on UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories, paranormal, etc. And and one of my friends who does shows, we have these talks, and we're just going, okay, those stories are great. Now let's do energy work on one of them to where consciousness seems to shift. And to me, that empowers me as opposed to being afraid,
Yes.
because I've heard a lot of scary stories out there, and I don't know how to respond to them. So that's how I respond to them. And I've done a lot of energy work there, working on the Washington, D.C., very ancient places where I think, uh, bad, I don't want to say bad intentions, but very selfish intentions are being propagated. Uh, and, you know, so that's my answer. That I don't know a lot about what's going to happen. I really don't go into the future.
Yeah.
The future's a lot dictated on our past, and the most powerful place you can be is in the present.
Yes. I love that.
Um, yeah, yeah. Uh, in my experience with Avebury Stone Circle,
Mm.
when you talked about the mother womb thing, I guess I have to tell it from a man's perspective. I really start to see that Avebury is a stargate, and there's 12 stargates on the planet, and one of them being in France at Pic de Bogarash. Other ones, Machu Picchu, Mount Shasta, the great volcano in Hawaii on the island Maui, the Giza Pyramid. All of these are stargates, and they all have different purposes. They all, or maybe not purposes, talents. They seem to generate certain capabilities. So Shasta is third eye information. And of course, when you look at California, it's very third eye consciousness there. They're very smart and clever over there. When you go to France, where I'm at, it's very heart centered. And um, Maui it's so crown. It's very crown opening. Uh, and at the same time, it's very connected to the first chakra, like both ends of the pole. When you
Yeah.
go to Avebury, it feels like planting seeds into the world. And so it would be like a vagina where you plant seeds, and for me, when I go, as I walk the circle and touch each stone with an intention of planting something in my personal life and the intentions for the world. And I'm always amazed that I look back a few years later and how many of those intentions have come true.
Yeah.
They never come out exactly the way I planned them to be, And they're not
Yeah.
in some nice, neat package the way I planned them to be, but something does come out that follows the intention of that energy.
So I find that really interesting that you say that, because when I was there, I had this vision, and there used to be a massive obelisk. So in the smaller circle, that is the sun circle, there was a huge obelisk. And when I saw it was basically the energy of the stars coming down, and how they utilized that energy to fertilize the seeds that they were then going to plant the crops with. So it's interesting that you picked up on the seed thing, because it was, for me, it was like, oh my goodness, they actually use star energy for the seeds to basically to energize the mitochondria and stuff within the seeds, and then put that out into the land and planted that, and then that was basically a massive, like, abundant crops and those type of things. So they utilize the star energies. And when I went to Egypt, I saw the same thing. So there's also like aspects of using star energy for seed planting and stuff. So it's interesting that you say that about Avebury.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. And it's on a big ley line.
Yes.
And if memory serves me, which it doesn't always, it's the center one of 7 major ley lines.
Okay, so that one is on our like most famous UK ley line called the St. Michael ley line.
Yes.
So that one runs like the south end of England. So you've got Avebury on there, you've got Glastonbury, you've got St. Michael's Mount on there. So those are all the famous ones. And there's like a
Mhm.
whole host, there's about 15 different what I would call like power spots on there that basically
Uh-huh.
runs all the way down the south of the country. And then there's another line that goes up from south to north, so from the Isle of Wight all the way up into Scotland, called the Bellinis line. So these 2 major ley lines in the UK crosses over there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're so connected to so many things. Isn't
Yeah.
it, I'm not for sure about this, but isn't the Giza pyramid connected to Avebury through the Mary Magdalene ley line?
So
Please
I
correct me.
haven't seen,
I'm sorry?
yeah, I haven't seen information about those being connected with the Mary line. So what happens with this St. Michael line is basically you have what we call the Mary and the Michael dragon line. So
Okay.
this ley line has got 2 energies. So the ley lines that we have here in the UK, they've got 2 energies, 2 currents that basically run. So the ley line is an imagined line, a straight track. And then
Mhm.
you have these 2 streams of energy, male and female current, so Mary and Michael. So they basically run like 2 snakes, and they cross over at certain points. And these 2 snaking energies, basically, if you look down, it becomes a straight line. But the
Mhm.
actual ley line isn't straight as we know straight. It's
Really?
basically the crossing of these 2 major they call them dragon lines or energy lines, that runs like the whole length of the country basically. And then, like I say, we have another one that's Ellen and Bellinis, so the female and male energy again, and they've been properly dowsed and documented as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, that's great. Uh, so when you talk about you were telling me in part of the bio that I didn't read that you were a dragon priestess or you are a dragon priestess. There's no past tense. We're talking present tense. And what is a dragon? What is a dragon priestess, and what does a dragon priestess do?
Oh man, so I've been working with the dragons, oh man, for quite some time now, and I basically was connected with them and started understanding that we can work with the energies of the dragons, and the dragons are like the ancient energies, the dragon lines, etc. So this came to me in about 2015, 2016. I started realizing, oh my goodness, there's dragons in the room while I'm doing energy healing and stuff. And so when I started feeling the energy in my body and I started speaking the light language of the dragons, I knew that there was something going on. And many, many, many years later, I basically had a real mystical experience where I went through an initiation with the dragon saying that they will work with me here, and I will basically bring through more information from the dragons. And yeah, so I went through this initiation, and there were these beautiful energetic doors opened, so that I could access further information about them. So part of my work now is to work with the energy of the dragons, obviously use it for earth healing, but also use it in my sessions with my clients, all of that type of stuff. So yeah, so I had my initiation in the realms basically, and that just basically came to me, and it was just something that was gifted to me by the dragons basically.
Wow. And
Mm.
so the dragons almost like kundalini presences within the earth themselves
Yes.
and maybe in other elemental realities.
Yes. So also the dragons are connected to the elements. So you will get water dragons, you get fire dragons, you'll get earth dragons, air dragons, all of that. So they're very connected to the elements of this planet, but the dragons are also very connected to other planets, and the elements of the cosmos as well.
Wow.
Mm.
And so do you feel those presences within your body itself?
Yes. So when I work with energy, um, very often what happens is that I get to channel that energy directly into like sessions or meditations or whatever, and it runs like I become like a conduit for the energy, and then
Mm.
take that out basically. And so also using that energy like here on the earth to work with the grids as well.
And if you want to experience this with Yolandi, go to her website, divinesoul.me. That's divine, then soul.me. And you can start to feel what this conduit of dragon energy that she is a channel and a conduit for is like. And how does that change people's lives?
Oh man. Well, I mean, the people that have interacted with it, I've had amazing feedback. I think in this work, it's like the potential within them gets realized. Like people basically are able to see themselves for who they are. And so I think a lot of my work is really about like that whole remembering, right? It basically helps them to remember who they really are and what they hold and
Mm.
how precious they are and just what they can do in this world and how they can just really be in that space of becoming who they truly are. And I think that kind of underpins everything that I do.
That's wonderful. It's I don't want to call it serendipity, but we see this whether somebody goes and they have an experience at a church with Jesus and something opens, some conduit or some energy came through them, or they go to a sacred site and something opens. Or for me, I've had epiphanies where I've been working on personal issues and I'm reading a book and I read a paragraph that gives me all the answers of what I've been searching for in the last 3 months in my own personal life. And all of a sudden, I have a knowing of mistakes I made or the challenges I've taken on. And the knowing creates an epiphany.
Mm.
We do it in so many different ways. And you you have an energy that's embodied in you that offers that as an opportunity to people.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I think
am I getting
that's
that
like
right?
the say again.
They're like, say that again.
That so I feel like part of the work is the activations, right? Part of the work is um that like when we open those doorways. So just like the sites call us, the frequencies of the sites call us, and we have those moments of connection and those frequencies meet, and like a part of us opens up, and it's like, I remember that part of myself. I remember who I am in this piece of me. It's like that's what my work feels like to me. It's like it opens doorways, it activates people to go, oh my goodness, I've opened up a little piece of myself, and so I remember. So for me, it's like that's why I love working with the sacred sites, because those frequencies, those resonances, it's just like it keeps opening up doorways so that we have a better understanding of who we are.
That's wonderfully said. Uh, and there's just certain people in the world that just they're so committed to themselves and the spiritual journey that they help open it for other people. And though it may be a business for them, it's a soul-driven business where the whole desire is serving the community, serving others, and the joy of seeing somebody open and change with all of what they're working through.
Yeah.
So I always see you as in that category.
Thank you. I hope so.
And I mentioned this before, but you have a series of classes coming up. Do you want to just give us a brief couple of words on that?
Yeah, so I'm going to be running a workshop. Well, it's 5 workshops basically. It's called New Earth Chakra Activations. So what's happening at the moment is that there's this the shift, like the 3D and the 5D consciousness for me is like we are moving into that space where we're being asked to be more open to 5D and more receptive to the energies that's coming down from the cosmos, the new energies coming even from the center of the earth, all of that, right? So we're basically our bodies, our consciousness, everything is being asked to open up to receive this like bunches of new information. So this workshop is basically designed to target the lesser known chakras and to do the activations to help the people to actually receive the information in a way that's going to land in the energetic field so that they can use it. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's basically, so we're going to focus on like the soul star, the earth star. So basically to get their connection with the cosmos opened up, get the connection with the earth opened up, and then work with some of the chakras, the lesser known chakras within their body as well. So it's not your traditional 7 chakra model, but I'm looking at the new ways of how we're getting information into our consciousness, into our physical body as well. So
That
that's
sounds
what the series is about.
wonderful. And they can do this over the internet.
Yeah. So
All
these
right.
are Zoom classes. So we meet, it's all recorded if you can't make it, like the time zone doesn't work. So we do like every Tuesday for
Cool.
5 weeks. We basically meet every week to activate another
Okay.
chakra.
Okay, great. Well, get in touch with Yolandi at divinesoul.me. And Yolandi, thanks for being on the show tonight, depending on what side of the world you're on. And really enjoyed all of your expertise and all your stories.
Oh,
It was great.
oh, thank you so much for having me, Bart. It was lovely to speak to you and to reconnect again as well.
Indeed. And so I got to go with Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And next week, at this time, we'll have Penny Loftus, who will be doing a combination of sound healing and astrology with the program, The Inner Solar System. Should be a lot of fun. And thank you, everybody, for listening tonight. And hope to see you next week. Bye for now.